until that generation of those 10 doubting spies, until that generation died off, they are just wandering around in the desert. And if you look at a map of their wanderings, I mean, literally, they're just wandering for 40 years. Brings us to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is the 5th book in the Old Testament. And again, it's kind of that reminder of the preparations for them to be successful in the Promised Land. Early in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 3, we get a little bit of a taste of our verses 10 through 13. There are some cities that are in the way of the nation of Israel taking over the Promised Land. And so in chapter 3, if you read that, God totally delivered the nation of Israel from these cities. And it says that God totally destroyed those cities. Man, woman, and child, they're dead. They're gone. And so I thought, what do you do now? You're a nation of probably 4 or 5 million people are wandering. Now they've got these cities that are empty. What did they do with those? They moved into them. For 40 years, they've been wandering homeless. Now they've got these houses that are full of food. They've got all kinds of stuff. That's what happened to them. Well, it comes to chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the preparation of the heart to endure in their faith. That's where we get the title of our series, Durable Faith. Moses is preparing their hearts to endure. And God is a jealous God. And Pastor Rod and Pastor Scott both talked about the one God in those first few verses, and how we are to love the Lord with all of our heart and with all of our soul and with all of our strength. And then Scott reminded us last week, he said, you parents, be diligent to teach the commands and the teachings to your children and to their children for generations to come. It comes to verses 10 through 12. So guys, if you put that up. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you a land with large flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant, then when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Moses continues his instruction of the nation of Israel and preparing them for entering in. And he tells them, all is about to be very good for you. You are going to possess land. You're going to take over cities. There's going to be empty houses that are filled with all the things you need. There are going to be wells, cisterns of water that you did not dig. You're just going to get to have them. There's going to be vineyards and olive groves that have already been planted for you. For all of you that are graduates and younger, all is pretty good for you. All is pretty good for you. You live in a city with really low crime. We don't hear a lot of gunfire and sirens going off and all that stuff around here. You get to go to nationally ranked schools. You have the Great Mall of the Great Plains. I mean, it's like you've been blessed. What happened to that place? It had great plans to start with, and then whatever. It's like, you get to drive nice cars. Not my kids. We're the only house in America with 3 minivans. But other than that, a lot of you get to drive some really nice cars. You have the Wii and large screens and plasma and high definition and all that stuff. You get to go on fun vacations. You're members to fitness centers. You have private coaches and lessons. You get to sleep in a warm house in a soft bed. You enjoy good health and good teeth. And Moses is telling us, when all is good for you and you did nothing to earn it, be careful. Be careful. Do not forget who your God is and who provided all this stuff for you, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. How could they forget God? How could they do that? It doesn't seem possible with all the blessings they've enjoyed up to this point in our story. How could they forget God? Why would Moses even have to be giving this caution? And maybe that's the problem. Blessed people don't always feel that they need God. me give you some God context. In the land of Canaan, it is just filled with all kinds of gods. And this is just crazy fascinating to me. So let me read some of these, and I think we've got a picture of one of the gods. That's Baal, actually. The Canaanites worshiped many gods and goddesses who together formed a council. El was head of the council, and he lived in a cosmic paradise where the other gods came to see him. This is true, I'm not making this up. Baal was the most popular god among the people. He was worshipped by the Canaanites as the storm god who brought rain and made land and flocks fertile. Other Canaanite gods included Moloch or Moloch and Asherah, the fertility god, and the mother of 70 of the gods, and the wife of El in the early years. It's important. Anath was Baal's sister as well as his wife. Crazy. This is the killer. As a war goddess, she is best known for gory acts of violence done to those who oppose her. That's pretty convenient. Somebody doesn't like something we're doing, we just kill them gorily. And so Moses now is warning us. Moses warns us, as a nation, do not get sucked into these gods. There's many of them. The temptation will be strong. How can this be? How can Moses even have a concern that they would follow these gods? They sound ridiculous. Because time and time again, this nation has failed. They continue to forget their God. They experienced the plagues that tormented the Egyptians. The angel of death passed over them, killed the firstborn. They go and they see a sea of water part in front of them, dry land. They go between it. They see the whole Egyptian army drowned in that water when the water collapses back on top of them. They say, we're hungry, God. We're thirsty. Feed us. Give us something to drink. And I think Moses wanted to say, you're in a desert, you idiots. Get out of the desert. There's no water and food in a desert. Let's get out of here. God brings manna from heaven, feeds them every day. Water comes from rocks. They go get the 10 Commandments, and Moses takes a little too long to come down from that mountain. And what do? They just have seen amazing things in their life. Not something they heard about. They just witnessed it. He takes a little too long. They make a golden calf. They send spies into the promised land, and they say, we're grasshoppers. We can't take that land. God isn't who he said he is. Moses is telling them, you guys, don't forget God. Don't forget God. I want you guys to try to imagine what it would look like to have a fully furnished house, to have 2 cars in your garage, stocked cupboards with all the food you need, large garden already planted for you, vineyards, thousands of dollars in your bank account. I want you to imagine that. It's not that hard for us to imagine, is it? Because that feels a lot like Johnson County. It for sure feels a lot like America. We have been blessed so much. And we all have the tendency, the temptation to say, I deserve it. Look what I have done. Look what I did. And Moses says in verse 12, it says, after you have eaten all you want, don't forget the Lord. I want all the graduates and younger to stand up. Graduates and younger. High school graduates and younger, because we're all graduates. High school graduates and younger, stand up. You guys have been blessed. And Moses is telling you, don't forget the Lord. Adults, stand up with him. We have been blessed. Moses says, be careful. When you've eaten all you can eat, don't forget the Lord. And so let's together as a body, let's just join our hearts in worship as the band lead us. Lord.
Let's join together, like Craig said, our voices and praise this God who has blessed us this morning.